Hello and welcome to another edition of Discover Mercer County Business. I'm your host, Rod Wilt, and I'm the Executive Director at Penn-Northwest Development Corporation, and we are Mercer County, Pennsylvania's certified economic development organization. Our motto is, make it in Mercer County, and our role is to create low-cost financing solutions for recruiting, retaining, and growing jobs and business opportunities in every corner of Mercer County. The sole purpose of this program is to showcase people and organizations that are making things happen here. We interview them to find out why they have chosen Mercer County, Pennsylvania as a great place to live, learn, work, and play. We are producing this show in conjunction with Teal College students, faculty, and staff, and we're coming to you from the state-of-the-art TV and radio studios in the James Pettis Communications Center on Teal's campus in Greenville. If you would like to connect with our Improvement Movement team to see how you can make it in Mercer County, please visit our website at penn-northwest.com or give us a call at 724-662-3705. You can also find us on YouTube by searching Penn Northwest Development Corp. Or connect with us on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. We hope you enjoy this edition of Discover Mercer County Business. Today we welcome to our program Bob Zaruda, President and CEO of the Northwest Industrial Resource Commission. We've got Lisa Day, who was the SBA, and you can tell us what that is. And we're also joined by John Thigpen, past chair of the Board of Directors of Penn-Northwest and also a board member of the NWIRC. So Bob, welcome. Let's just jump right in. Just give us a little background on what the NWIRC is and what services you provide in your service territory here in Northwest PA.
Well, great, Rod. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Sure.
The NWIRC is a not-for-profit 501c3 with a mission to help the small, mid-sized manufacturing company to grow, compete, create better and more opportunities for existing and new employees.
So the NWIRC, was it started from state or federal legislation? Talk about the genesis of the organization.
Well, the NWIRC is actually part of a statewide network. There are 7 centers, including us, in Pennsylvania, and it was a state initiative back in 1988 to help provide some public funding to get the program started. And the program grew here in Pennsylvania, and in fact was one of the early states in the nation that helped launch it on a national network. So the 7 centers in Pennsylvania make up what is called the Pennsylvania Manufacturing Extension Partnership.
Okay.
That MEP, there's one in every state in the country, and Puerto Rico as part of the national network under the Department of Commerce.
Well, I know you and Lisa cover kind of a big geographic area here in the Northwest.
We do. So our area as a center is 13 counties, and it's a big geographical footprint, of course, including Mercer. So we have a lot of geographical area to cover with our staff, and Lisa is the business advisor for this region.
Yeah, Lisa, as the strategic business advisor, we get to see a lot. It's great.
Right.
We do a lot of joint calls on companies together, and we talk about some programs that Penn-Northwest can use to, as we said in the intro, help companies grow and expand or maybe even relocate into Mercer County. But then you bring something else to the table as the SBA for the county.
I do.
And you also, I'm sorry, for this county, but also you have a couple of counties you work in.
Exactly right, Rod. So I cover Crawford and Erie counties as well, the larger manufacturers. So any manufacturer over 50 employees, I'll cover in Crawford and Erie counties, as well as all manufacturers in Mercer County. But you brought up, I have a retail fashion merchandising background from Mercyhurst University, which is brings a unique perspective. I worked for a large manufacturing company in the retail sector for over 19 years. And so it was a pretty easy pivot to take those soft skills and the management skills that I had and bring them to manufacturing. And it's been a wonderful place for me to continue to grow my career.
Yeah, it's been a great economic development partnership between you folks and Penn-Northwest for a long, long time. And John, you can kind of speak to that because you've been involved a long time at Penn-Northwest, but also you've been involved for some period of time with the NWIRC. You have a statewide role as well.
I do, and thanks for having me join the conversation this morning. I am the president of Ilsco Extrusions, located right here in Greenville, Pennsylvania, Mercer
So you would
County.
fit with that 50 employees and over. You would be a client of the NWIRC.
I absolutely am. So in 2010, I had the opportunity to restart a very large manufacturing industrial complex here in Greenville, and one of the first opportunities that you look to is workforce development. And so I was initially introduced to the IRC as a client for training over the course of many years, and taking advantage of the many resources that they bring to small and mid-sized manufacturers. And shortly after Bob became the president and CEO of this particular IRC, I joined his board. I sat on his board for a few years, and then they asked me to actually represent the region at the PA MEP board foundation level. So I've been doing that for 3 years.
I want to get into what this statewide organization means to us locally, but I think just to build out a little bit more on the NWIRC and how active you are in the region, talk about some of the programs and what some of the priorities for this year, 2022, are.
Well, Rod, the center really focuses on what are the prime issues and challenges and opportunities for regional manufacturers. And we survey our manufacturers on a quarterly basis. And without question, one of the top priorities is recruiting and the retention of talent. So we have, and for some time now, have developed a number of programs and services specifically to help manufacturers in an area. The second most important area to our regional manufacturers is continually looking for ways to improve their competitiveness through cost reduction strategies and the adoption of new technologies to make them more competitive. And then the third really is helping them to grow their top line, more sales revenues coming from either existing customers in markets that they serve now, or new markets, or new product innovation.
Lisa, speaking about Mercer County, you know, we've had this interesting dichotomy that none of us really have lived through before, where we have so many opportunities for employment, but so few people looking. And I think that gap's starting to close a little bit, but where are we in that chase for talent right now?
So every manufacturer that I meet with on a weekly basis is looking for that talent. And I think it's really talking about how do we engage our young people. I'm also the educational chair for women in manufacturing on the western side of Pennsylvania. And so we do things like we talk to middle school students and high school students to try to help them find that career path into manufacturing. And whether you want to be an engineer and go into the STEM opportunities, or marketing, website design, graphic design, communications, all those things, you can find a career in manufacturing. And manufacturers are looking for all of those skills, whether it's the front office and organization of the business, or it's the operation of the business on the back end in the manufacturing space. And truly, that's how I came into manufacturing. I brought my sales experience in retail, and I brought it in as a director of sales for a couple local manufacturers, and then was fortunate enough to get the position here. So really what we're doing at the NWIRC is engaging young people through our What's So Cool About Manufacturing program. And some of the other things that we do with working with the local career centers and helping students identify that strong career path and really talking about what are the opportunities.
And how does that engagement work with the What's So Cool About Manufacturing program? Where do those touches with those young people occur?
As you may know, we did a video contest that we've run for quite a few years. It was put on hold during the pandemic, but we're looking to recreate it. And that was helping students beginning in 8th grade do a video contest where they would go into local manufacturers here in Mercer County, meet with the executives and do a video. Those videos, many of those went on to the state level. And so those kids were really engaged. They were super creative and energetic in those videos. And I actually used some of the video content. I did a career fair for Mercer County just the other week, and we used some of those videos in that content. And I bet some of those kids that attended that career fair as 11th and 12th graders were involved in those videos in the 8th grade level. So it's been fun to continue that conversation with the students.
That's very cool. And John, you've run a company, a big company, for the last 10 years, but been involved in manufacturing for a long time. What have you been able to implement into your operation at ILSCO from some of those skills that you learned through the NWIRC training? And then I want to follow that up with a little comment from you on just how you see the work culture changing post-pandemic.
Sure. Well, the menu of services from the IRCs is pretty broad. So I've used them for sales growth and sales strategy training. I've used them extensively for lean manufacturing techniques and understanding. I've used them for 5S and CATA training.
And what are those, John? Just for someone like me, I'm not
These would
familiar
all
with those
be
acronyms.
continuous improvement and or cost reduction
Okay.
strategies in a manufacturing environment. I would say that the IRC represents kind of a one-stop shop for all small and mid-sized manufacturers because they offer services from cybersecurity, clear to hiring and retention strategies in creating a new culture that attracts new workforce into the manufacturing sector. Manufacturing is the second largest component of Pennsylvania's economy. There's over 600,000 jobs in manufacturing, and 70% of those entities are in what we would call small and mid-sized manufacturers, between 20 and 499 employees. And that is where a lot of the job growth is, mostly because those companies are a little bit more resilient and flexible and responsive. Smaller companies just they're not diversified enough. Larger companies, while they have all the resources that they need, they're oftentimes slow to move.
Not very nimble.
Right, and so the services that are provided through the IRC network are essential to Pennsylvania's continued growth and prosperity.
So when you look at that and growing your employment and being nimble as a small to mid-sized company, what role is culture, the workforce environment, playing in 2022? Because I hear from a lot of the calls that we make on companies that it's changing, that workers are, I don't want to say asking for more, but maybe I'll just leave it at that. Maybe they are asking for more things different than a typical employer might have offered pre-pandemic or even 10 years ago. Anyone want to speak to that?
I'd be glad to, Rod. Culture is a growing area of service that we are involved with, and it's for a good reason. Companies recognize that today's talent and future talent really wants to be involved with the success of the business and have contributions that they can be very excited about and get more involved with having a greater role within the success of the company. As a result, they also recognize that if they build a culture that displays that demonstrates that, they're going to not only retain their existing talent, but they're going to be able to be more of that employer of choice from an attraction standpoint. So right now, we really have emphasized that. We have moved our staff in positions. We have somebody on our staff, Lisa Pistolk, who is a practitioner in that area. And we are doing more and more cultural assessments with a plan to strengthen the culture of the business. And companies are really excited about it. So that's an area of opportunity that we are just doing more and more work. It's really helping to address the current, not only the employment situation today, the labor shortage, but it's also allowing the company to be more competitive, to immediately be able to get jump-started on helping them to improve their ability to win more business.
And then Bob and Lisa and John, what role does that starting wage play in that? Because we've seen that just continue to escalate, at least in Mercer County we have, just from some of the signs and notices and placards that you see on buildings driving around. That starting wage just seems to be inching up and up. How are your members or the folks that you're providing services to, and John, you specifically at ILSCO, how do you respond to that? Because can you move price fast enough to correspond to the rapidly growing base rate? What's out there in terms of services to help owners and operators deal with that?
Well, I'll speak maybe more on a larger level, and John certainly he can speak to his own business. We certainly saw throughout the second half of the pandemic, actually early on, companies willing to increase the pay in order to be able to position themselves to attract and retain. At the same time, though, they recognize that they can't just do that. And that then leads to other things that they could do, like addressing culture, like improving their processes and increasing their productivity, adopting some new technologies to be able to do some of the low skill but repetitive tasks through automation, not putting that pressure on having the employee do that, and then take their employees, upskill them so that they can take on more responsibilities and do higher value add work for the business.
And that makes, I would imagine, it would make the employee feel more valuable to the organization because they're cross-trained in a lot of different ways. Are you seeing that play out locally, Lisa, as you travel Erie, Crawford, Mercer County?
I do, and a statistic that I heard just yesterday that in the onboarding process, it's another big thing that we're working on, is helping companies now create onboarding processes. But we were with the manufacturer yesterday, and 65% higher retention rate if in the first 2 months there is a solid onboarding program that helps that employee identify a solid career path in that manufacturing space. And it's as simple as having an organizational chart in your new hire pack. And so we were working with a manufacturer yesterday, and it was like an aha moment that some of these very simple things can be put into the onboarding program in the first 2 weeks. But again, 65% higher retention rate just from doing simple things like that. But again, as Bob said, and you asked the question, it's creating that culture where people naturally feel that they're valued from day one.
John, how have you seen the mindset of the worker change over the last 4 to 10 years of just following up on where Bob and Lisa are coming from on this topic?
So manufacturers are always concerned about competitive wage rates. And I think manufacturers in Pennsylvania, and specifically in our region, have been under a lot of pressure and have had to find creative ways to increase the wage and earnings of their workforce, specifically for retention. I believe that there are more opportunities for growth in manufacturing than there is educated and initiated workforce right now.
Yeah, I think the challenge
so as a
of that is
long-term goal, we need to have an influx of population in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's something that we talk about not only at the state level but also in all of the manufacturing circles.
Yeah, and I think that really spills over then into our side of the equation on the economic development side, where we always talk about, whether I come to this from the legislative side, but whether you're an elected official or you're engaged in economic development, it's just not about jobs and workers anymore. It's about education. It's about quality places to live. It's quality places to recreate, and really advancing specifically Mercer County as a destination for people either migrating back from the south or migrating from the east or west coast. And we've seen some of that starting to occur, and we need to figure out how to move that forward. We're going to leave it right there for just a second. We're going to take a quick break, and our viewers can watch a little commercial about Penn-Northwest and the impact that we're trying to make on Mercer County, and we'll be right back with our guests from the Northwest Industrial Resource Center.
Is your company looking to expand and grow? Then Mercer County, Pennsylvania is the right place for you. Whether your company is involved in manufacturing, technology, logistics, health, or business services, shale gas exploration, or retail, we can help. Mercer County, Pennsylvania offers low-cost land, valuable infrastructure, a quality labor force, and the right financial tools to make your corporate expansion an affordable reality. Mercer County is only a day's drive to major markets including Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Buffalo, New York City, Chicago, and even southern Canada. Companies like GE Transportation, Joy Cone Company choose to make it in Mercer County, and Penn-Northwest wants to show you how your company can also make it in Mercer County too. Our team of experts will help you expand and save dollars. How does Penn-Northwest do it? How does Penn-Northwest save companies so much money? With a combination of low-interest loans, grants and credits, tax abatements, and even tax-free property. Here's the best part. Penn-Northwest will do most of the work for you. Just click on the button below and get the process started. Or you can first get an idea of how your organization can make it in Mercer County by using the savings estimator located at makeitinmercercounty.com. You'll see that expanding your business in Mercer County, Pennsylvania is the move that makes the most dollars and cents. Call Penn-Northwest Development Corporation at 724-662-3705 for more information.
And we are back for our second segment with the Northwest Industrial Resource Center here on Discover Mercer County Business. And during the short break, we were talking about, the accountability of the NWIRC. You have stakeholders at both the state and federal levels. So from all three of your perspectives, how do you benchmark how you're being successful?
Well, Rod, first, yes, we are a public-private partnership, and so we receive funding from both the federal and state to help small, mid-sized manufacturing companies, as we were describing. But the other part of the business model is that our manufacturing clients do put investments into their own improvements, and so that's the private side. But this public-private partnership has been in existence for over 30 years in Pennsylvania. And a big part of the accountability, which we're so grateful that it's been baked in from the very beginning, is a independent client survey process that is actually under contract with the U.S. Department of Commerce. So all the projects that John indicated, working with the NWIRC from his business, all the projects that we do, all the projects that are done across the state and the nation go into a survey process. And so our manufacturers are surveyed quarterly on the projects that we work with them. And we're looking, the third party is looking to capture what impact did those projects have on your business as a manufacturer. Did it increase sales? Did it retain sales? Did it help lower costs? Did it help create jobs, retain jobs, help investments in new areas of your business and plant, equipment, automation, process improvement? All of that is captured in that survey, reported up to that third party, and then it's compiled and disseminated to the national network. And we use it, of course, in our education to elected officials, those we're looking for support coming from the state and federal legislatures, so that we could be able to continue to be advocate for more manufacturing. But again, public-private partnership, critical to our success.
Yeah, and you get to see that play out on your day-to-day activities, Lisa. So are you the one, as the strategic business advisor in this 3-county region, are you responsible for visiting that client and collecting that data and implementing it into the system? Is that part of your role?
It is. So Rod, let me help you understand that a little bit better. The survey period is actually done by a third-party provider. So we do not have access to the questions or the data until after it's fully baked in, and then it rolls back down to us. But what we do is we go in and we meet with that executive, typically president or CEO, and we talk to them about the project. And we go through how many jobs were created, what was the impact of the project, whether it was cybersecurity or leadership and development, whatever the nature of that project was. And we talk to them about a year out from that project. What did that look like? What did the impact have? And so it's a great dialogue just to hear then the fruits of our labor and how they've been impacted so positively through the work that we've done. That helps them remember and gain some statistics for them to do the survey. And so we do walk them through that process. We engage with them just to help them refresh their memory and really think about how that project impacted, so that when they go to do the survey, they have that remembrance, and then the impact is greater.
Well, John, you bring a unique perspective because you've been surveyed, so you've gone through a lot of these programs. Then you get to see it at the NWIRC board, and then you sit on the statewide board where you're the treasurer. So, talk about that process. And you've seen some real positive outcomes at your company as a result of some of these programs.
So at the PA-MEP Foundation level, it's a very small group. There's 2 employees, and basically the function of that MEP, which was simply formed just a short few years ago in 2018, at the request of the federal government, they manage and disperse funds from the federal contract. So with every federal contract, there's a tremendous amount of compliance. And the federal government wants to know that the dollars that are being invested throughout the 51 MEPs across the country, that there's a good return on those dollars. A recent survey that came back, or a recent study that came back from the federal government through NIST, is that for every dollar that's being invested in the MEP network, $5.50 of return are being granted back into the community. So,
And are we
we
meeting
know-
that average? Not to interrupt you, John, but the question popped into my head. In Northwest Pennsylvania, or the 13 county service territory, are we below, at, or above that $5.50?
You know, there are many stars throughout the 7 IRCs in Pennsylvania, and I would say that the Northwest IRC ranks amongst the very top.
Oh, that's great.
And as Pennsylvania, as a model for the rest of the country, is consistently scoring very, very high in the scorecard and measurement rounds of tracking impact to the economy, and to the point where Bob and his team have been invited to the national conferences to provide best practice presentations, and we should all be very proud of what's going on in Northwest Pennsylvania.
No, that is fantastic. That's a calling card for us on the recruitment side, that we
Yes.
have this resource here at our fingertips. Bob, when manufacturers access this resource, there's a fee-for-service model, I would imagine. I mean, nothing in life is free, even though your operation at the top end is, subsidized by the public sector. Talk a little bit about how someone watching this program that's in your service territory would access some of these programs and what they would be looking at cost-wise.
So again, the public-private partnership enables us on the public side, the funding that we receive, to do and work with companies that is not an out-of-pocket cost. So a manufacturer, for example, can have us come in, and one of the areas that part of that recruiting and retention is, how do we train our current employees so they feel really job ready and satisfied that they're getting that attention. So we'll do a training assessment of their employees and what the company would like to achieve with their growth of their staff. That's at no cost. We're able to go in and do a comprehensive business assessment to identify potential opportunities for new markets, for growth in new markets or growth in existing markets. Again, those assessments are at no cost. The cultural assessment for many companies is at no cost if they qualify. So that's the public side. It allows us to do that. But when we get to where there's a specific recommendation or two to help that company improve, whether it's cybersecurity project, taking on an ERP system, there's going to be costs from a third party. And in that case, the company itself would be making investments into those improvements. So that's the private side of it. So
the diagnostics are free, but the actual fix,
in most cases,
there's a little bit of a cost to
that's
that.
exactly it. In a short saying, that's generally how the model works.
Well, we talked about finding employees, and we've talked about work culture. There's not a lot we can do other than advocate and lobby for maybe a better business environment from a tax and regulatory side. But when you're out there, meeting with manufacturers, and John, in your everyday running of your business, what do you think some of the biggest challenges are in our region that we need to continue to fight for and overcome, or fight through and overcome? You want to start on that, John?
Sure. Well, let's just talk about one of the more recent initiatives. We will have a change in our governorship of our state very soon. And the IRC network, along with the MEP and the private manufacturers, have formed a manufacturing advisory council, to really dig in to provide the next governor of our great Commonwealth, a playbook, so to speak, on how to make manufacturing and our communities more successful for the long term. And the work that Bob and others have put into that is fantastic. I mean, we've participated in a lot of what we would call community roundtables to really dig into what are the immediate needs. And the pandemic over the last 2 years has really changed the dynamic of business greatly. And if anybody thinks that the effects of that are short-term, they're wrong, right? This is a very long-term step change in the way we do business and the way Pennsylvania as a state, needs to have a bigger strategy on how to remain competitive in the world economy.
So there is that advocacy component to what you do.
Yes, very
Teaching
much
your
so.
elected officials the impact and talking about some of the data and some of the statistics that we'll probably have on the screen here while we're talking here in the last half
And
hour.
there's nothing better than the success stories that the IRC itself can tell about the 1,800 manufacturers that they helped just in the last fiscal year.
Great, great. Well, I'm going to wrap this up with a question for the three of you, which I think is a lot of fun. What's your favorite thing about Northwest Pennsylvania? What is the thing that keeps you grinding it out here for the benefit of your own organization and for the benefit of so many others? Why are you here in Northwest PA?
Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah, man.
Well, I did move to Northwest Pennsylvania about 6 years ago, my wife and I, and for this opportunity. Prior to that, I was with the Industrial Resource Center on the northeastern side of the state for about 16 years. And but my son had moved here a year before that, before I considered even coming here. And he and his wife, and they have a family here, and he just bragged about how wonderful the communities are and the people in Northwest Pennsylvania and the terrain and the natural beauty. And I said, okay, and then this opportunity came up, Rod, and my wife and I moved, and we're so glad we did. And for me, it is really more of that hometown feel. I really see so much of that in Mercer. More so than even Erie County, I will say. It's just that people that really are connected to their local environment, their home life, people helping each other out. It's that people part for me that's exciting. On the business side, for me, I enjoy the collaboration. And I think that's why even our organization and the Northwest and your organization, the Penn-Northwest, and others in the area all come together to help businesses. And that collaboration is so refreshing and exciting. And I see that throughout Northwest, our 13 counties. And I'm glad to be part of that. So that's my side of it.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because in my short time at Penn-Northwest, I think that's one of the things that me and our team have really emphasized, and that's getting people talking to each other. Let's just get real with each other, and let's fix some of these systemic issues that have laid around for a while, and we may have talked about them, but we've never really dug in and addressed them, and we can only do that through this collaboration. So, Lisa, how about you?
Well, Bob said a lot of the things I was going to say, but I love the small communities. People really do collaborate and work hard. There's a lot of things that you and I have done outside of our jobs as well, and it just makes life fun. It gives us a greater purpose, and it's a wonderful place to raise our families. And I love to see the seasonal changes. I might be crazy in that one, but I love to see, we're starting to see the peaks of spring now. And there's nothing more beautiful than our area at the start of spring. So it's a good place.
Yeah, absolutely. John, you and I have a long history. We went to
We
Teal
do.
together here
Yes.
when we're filming, and we're both Mercer Countyans. But why? You've raised your kids here, and you're empty nesters now. But why are you still here?
It's hard to leave, really. I mean, there's probably a good statistic about Western Pennsylvania that if you live here, you don't really leave here. But this is a wonderful part of the country. The cost of living is below average. The educational systems in Western Pennsylvania are fantastic. The diversity of our economy is, way more diverse than people give us credit for. We have great natural resources, great, wonderful historical communities. And here in Mercer County, we're kind of right in the middle. We enjoy Pittsburgh, we enjoy Cleveland, we enjoy Erie, all within an hour's drive.
And you're half a day from New York City and Chicago as well.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I'm born and raised and then replanted, transplanted, whatever you want to say, back here, and I'm just enjoying my life now. As I've had an opportunity to come back to our family
Yeah.
farm and
We
live.
make our tea times on the same day we want to play golf.
That's right.
And we don't have much traffic. It's just a great thing.
It's great, absolutely great. It's a great place to get out and about, and we really appreciate you joining us today on our Discover Mercer County program. That's all the time we have for today's program. Again, I'm Rod Wilt. I'm the Executive Director of Penn-Northwest Development Corporation. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are Pennsylvania's certified economic development organization. And as we say our motto is to make it in Mercer County, and our role is to create these low-cost financing solutions for recruiting, retaining, and growing jobs and business opportunities in every corner of our county. So we appreciate you joining us again, the Northwest Industrial Resource Center. We thank you for being with us today, and we'll see you again next time on Discover Mercer County Business.